Hey guys, welcome back to an all-new episode of a pro wrestling podcast with Matt and friends. This is the final cut with my guest today, the director himself, Dutch McClane. Dutch, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty solid. How you doing today, Matt?
Good, man. Hey, you know what? We did a rough draft of this. I know you didn't like the final finish, so we had to do this final cut. You know, the director's choice, man. We have to do it again. So I'm definitely stoked to do this one more run through with you. Have this solid, completely done, finished, greatest episode of all time. Here we go. So, Dutch, first things first, what was life like growing up for Dutch McClane?
And Dutch McClane grew up tough, man. What can I tell you there? I come from an amateur wrestling family. I was always rolling around on the mats. Going, across the state of Kansas doing wrestling tournaments. Me and my brother. We started off strong. I started at 5. My little brother started about 6, and our dad coached us, man. We worked our butts off, and the thing about me and amateur wrestling, I was always pretty solid, but my little brother, that man could go. So, it's cool seeing him take off. And then, eventually, it was tough. We lost our dad. He ended up passing from brain cancer, and we stopped wrestling for a while. But finding wrestling, man, finding this little urge and this little knack for wanting to do professional wrestling. Like first watching wrestling back in like 2007, really brought me back out of that hole, and, kind of gave me a different thing to kind of look forward to, kind of
No,
just.
definitely, man. And I'm very sorry about your loss. I know that's very tough, especially the person that guided you through something you really loved and being your support system through all that. It's very hard. So thoughts and prayers go out to you and your family. Very hard to hear that, man. Very heartbreaking.
It's
And
all right, man. It's just that's how life goes. You got to kind of go with what you got, and I feel like I got a pretty solid hand so far. It's just I mean, even in the turmoil of everything that happened, I found what I'm most passionate about. What I'm itching for every time I wake up in the morning is just like right after I found wrestling, and I mean that kind of really sparked something. I started back in amateur wrestling again, and every year until I graduated, I just did wrestling, and I started taking acting classes when I was in freshman year of high school, and just different things I felt that could possibly help me on the journey, and kind of help me for when I get a little older and I'm able to go off and do this thing.
oh, absolutely. Now you mentioned that acting classes in high school and stuff like that. So I'm assuming you were in the drama club, correct?
Not as much as I'd want to. I did it. I did a few classes my first couple years, and then I didn't stick with it as much. I did some stagecraft, but I also did a lot of theater arts, and the first theater class after that. It's just that's my biggest regret in high school is just not sticking with the theater. I did some one acts and kind of monologues, and I did some stuff, but it's just I did my first play actually this past year.
Really? That's awesome. What was the play about?
It's called Dr. Faustus. So it's about a kind of like a rock star, and sells the soul to the devil and all kinds of stuff like that. It's based on an old the guy who made the play came up around Shakespeare time, and so it's a play that people put their own spin on it. But one of my closest comrades, him and his brothers decided to make their own version of it. I think in the original version it was the Doctor, but they decided to make a newer version with the rock star, and it's pretty cool, pretty good deal.
That's awesome. I know you mentioned 1X. I'm very curious as if the 1X that you had were similar to what we had in my high school. Were the 1X kind of like where you took like bits and pieces from movies and TV shows and plays and stuff like that and did all different things, or was your 1X something different?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it was along those lines there.
So what roles did you play when you did that? I'm curious about that.
One big one I did was Zombieland. So I did the Zombieland episode that was
You're cutting out there a little, Dutch. I can't hear you now.
pretty
Still
cool.
cutting out there.
Good. It's one of my favorites. So I did Zombieland, one of the first ones I did here. I'm sure the one here, but here. Can you hear me?
Now I can. Yeah, there we go.
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay.
Yep.
One of the one of the first ones I did was Zombieland. So I did the monologue and some of the opening stuff from Zombieland. That was pretty cool. Goodfellas, that was another big one. That's one of my all-time favorite movies. You know, it's one of my dad's movies, and it kind of passed along. You know that, and a lot of good shows and movies all passed along from my brother, little brother, my mom, my dad. But Goodfellas was probably my favorite one we did when I did One X.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I was curious about that because when I was in high school freshman year, I did 1X as well. So I thought it was really cool, to hear that because I've talked about this to a bunch of people that I've known that have gone through high school, and I asked them if they've done 1X and they didn't know what I was talking about. So you mentioned in that, I was like, oh, this is pretty neat because I've never heard somebody else go through that. But yeah, I played like a role of Ferris Bueller's dad, and then I did a priest, and then I did Jesus, right? So it was different lines. I got to the part where I played Jesus and I forgot my line. And I'm sitting there and I'm washing the foot of Judas, right? Or whatever. And I forgot my line and I whispered, "Oh, fuck." And my brother after the show goes, "Hey, did you say 'oh, fuck' during that show?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I'm pretty positive everybody heard you then because you forgot that shit."
Awesome. That's not awesome, but I mean, you think about it years later, you're like,
It
at
was
least I got
great.
that.
It was great. I won Best New Actor award, so it was fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome.
But no, it's super cool to hear about that. Now I know you mentioned pro wrestling is when you really started watching and getting into it was 2007. So I'm really curious as to what really got you into it. What was that first moment that drew you into pro wrestling that you were like, this is awesome?
I think for me, the biggest thing was Shawn Michaels, man. Like finding him, I just automatically gravitated to the Heartbreak Kid. After years of kind of just watching wrestling and kind of just thinking about all the past and who my favorites are and why they're my favorites. I think a big reason Shawn's my favorite is, he started young and like took the industry on fire. He was brash, but he wasn't the most adored backstage. He had his personal problems, man. I've had my own personal problems, but then he found God, turned his life around, and and then he came back and had even just as good, if not better, run the second go around. That's the run I was watching, and I grew up in a Christian household. My dad sacrificed a lot to help a lot of people out where I'm from, and I think that's the biggest thing for me. I saw him, and I saw someone who was amazing before, but just as amazing now, and not as big of a chip on his shoulder, which is just, I want to give off, the, the presence that I have a lot of good ability, and I'm willing to learn and listen, but I want to be humble, because I want to go to as many places as I can, and just trying to learn from as many as the best as I can, just build up that repertoire of just a resume, and different views from some of the best, like people, indie stars, legends, anyone I can find that can learn under. And, I want to just, have a chip on my shoulder, but, I don't want to show it. I just want to, want to get out there, wrestle, and, show what I've learned and show what I can do with all the information given to me.
Oh, absolutely. And I think Sean's one of those guys that gravitated for everybody. I think most people, when you ask who their favorite wrestler of all time is, a lot of them are going to say Shawn Michaels. And it's because of the kind of athlete he was and the performer he was and just the stuff he did, man. He was way ahead of his time. I think Shawn Michaels, now can hang with the talent that is going today. But I think that's what kind of made him different is because of how different and unique he was compared to all the other wrestlers that were going at that time.
Right?
I remember watching my first pay-per-view. It was a Royal Rumble. Like I just got the DVD. I didn't watch it live or anything. I rented the DVD or VHS, I should say, because at the time it was VHS. And it was the Royal Rumble that Brock Lesnar won. So I want to say it was 2003. And I remember watching it, and Shawn Michaels came out like first or second, and then later throughout the match, Rob Van Dam came out, and I thought it was the same guy. I shit you not. I thought Shawn Michaels and Van Dam were the same guy because they had the ponytail and everything. And then growing into watching it, it's funny because Shawn Michaels and Rob Van Dam are my first and second favorite wrestlers of all time. So it's kind of unique to see that, the two guys I thought was the same would be the two that are the forefront of my favorite list.
Yeah, for
Now,
me, like Sean though, the majority of his career that I watched, he was a babyface, and
yes,
so just about the majority of it. I don't think I ever got to see, when I was like was watching Raw or SmackDown on my TV, heel Shawn Michaels. But besides Shawn Michaels, all my other favorite wrestlers at the time, were heels. I loved Edge back when he was on SmackDown. Chris Jericho, especially like when he first started that, not the first feud, but their second big feud with Shawn.
yeah,
And that was those are like even though Sean's my favorite, I was still kind of rooting for Jericho and guys like Edge, and just my little brother was really big. Like I love the Undertaker too, but Undertaker and Jeff Hardy were my brother's two favorite. And I love Edge, Chris Jericho, those kind of guys. So just even though those other guys have great character work, I just like the biggest bad guys at the time. I mean,
oh, absolutely. And I think I believe the run you're talking about with
those guys were
Jericho and Sean was like in 08 or 09, wasn't it? Somewhere around there.
yeah, yeah, in that
Yeah.
ladder match, and oh man.
Yep. Yep. Now that I think at the same time, I think I was rooting for Jericho too, to be honest with you. But I mean, hey man, Sean killed it. I mean, his run with Jericho was great. His matches with JBL I thought were fantastic. Just everything Sean has done has been great. Did you watch Edge's final match on SmackDown?
I'm not sure. I don't think it was Edge's final match. Granted, I just saw this pretty recently. It was a clip of his promo after SmackDown. He said he's not 100% sure if this is going to be his final match or final run. He's got to talk to his family and
Yeah,
kind of on that. But he just said thank you. When it was it Winnipeg that they're in, or was it Toronto?
Toronto. Yep.
Toronto, thank you, Toronto. And then they closed it. And so that was really cool. In that match, I watched that live. I mean, I don't got a way to record SmackDown, so if I watch SmackDown, I generally just try to watch it live. And I threw on the TV last night, and it was just about to start, so I watched Edge and Sheamus, and that was one of the best like TV matches I've seen in a while, at least from WWE. Like that match, I was yelling on my TV, man, when he did that what the Irish Curse, not the Irish Curse, the what
The
is it?
Celtic Cross.
High cross, yeah. Man, that bump Edge took, I was freaking. I was like, that man's got, his neck is, that match is gonna be pop all over the place, man. And I'm just, I was really invested, so that was cool to watch, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, if that is Edge's final match, what a way to go out.
And not just that, but like I work, so I work at a gym. I didn't work today, but I went over there this afternoon. Was working out for a while, a couple hours working out, and then I was in the locker room after hitting the sauna. And one of the old timers we had that comes in was just there. I think he knew I was a wrestler and knew I talked about that before, and he just randomly said, "Hey, did you watch that wrestling show last night?" I said, "Which one?" He said, "SmackDown show." He said that match with Edge and Sheamus, and I was like, whoa. So I had a good wrestling conversation is after the gym today, and I'm glad other people that aren't typically watching wrestling, or if they just randomly turn it on, they're like, that's pretty
Awesome.
cool. So like
Yep, 100%. Now, do you remember the first live event that you've ever been to?
yeah, not I mean vaguely. I was pretty young because it was somewhere between 2007 and 2009. It wasn't only right when I started watching wrestling, but it was just a little live event we had at the I can't even think of that. We don't even have that little arena anymore. It's an old arena we used to have, but it was just a WWE live event. I know John Cena wrestled. I do remember at one point Stone Cold's music hit, but it was just Charlie Haas and a bald cap. So that's
Yes, I remember that. The
it was
Charlie
definitely
Haas
Charlie Haas
person.
and a bald cap, and I remember for a long time I had an autograph. They said John Cena hand signed 1,000 of these, and we bought one. I bought them. So I had a John Cena and like a little cool looking picture with his signature on it. And it was a good little cool event. It wasn't until years later that I went to my first like show, like actual show. When I was 12, my mom decided to do something big for each of our 12th birthdays for me, my little brother, and my little sister. When on my 10th birthday came around, we were kind of dealing with the aftermath of my dad passing and everything along those lines. So we didn't celebrate a lot of our birthdays that year, and so our mom decided for your 12th birthday, I'll take you each individually anywhere you want to go. we'll do whatever you want to do. And, my little sister, she went to New York and saw some Broadway shows with my mom and my aunt. My brother went to a Colts versus Titans game since he was a huge Colts fan, still is. And then I'm from Phoenix originally. Me and my brother are both from Phoenix, and just kind of timed out perfectly, I guess. WrestleMania 26 was in Phoenix that year. My birthday's in February, but that was March, and so kind of timed out. We got to stay with our family out there, and went to WrestleMania 26. Man, I got to see my eventual trainer, Dustin Rhodes. He was wrestling in a battle royal when he was wrestling with Goldust. Cody Rhodes wrestled in a triple threat match with Randy Orton, Ted DiBiase, Legacy.
Yep.
They had Bret Hart return to wrestle Vince. That was pretty crazy. They had John Cena, Batista. Never can go wrong there. Edge and Chris Jericho, like I said, two of my favorites. That was, besides the main event, that was probably my go-to match, was Edge and Chris Jericho. Underrated WrestleMania classic for the World Heavyweight title.
Oh, it's a great one for sure.
But the main event, man, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, the streak versus the career. I mean, that's just, I can't, describe the amount of emotion and, I can't, just, that's a wrestling show. I just remember just about every detail about, there's 72,219 people there. And it was spectacular, man. There's emotion in the building, and it just grown men around me crying. And I'm just like, wonderment. I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, Shawn Michaels is gone. It's heartbreaking. You get that feeling like somebody that you've been watching just now is gone, and you didn't expect it, but you also expected it at the same time, because here's a streak that you also don't know if it's going to really end, and it was a hard one,
Yeah.
especially because of how much they put into the story. The everything about it, man, just the emotions from the entrances to the ending was something that we don't see as often. It just,
Yeah.
everything was beautiful about it. But like you mentioned, I mean, that show was stacked, man. The Legacy triple threat match was awesome. I really thought they were going to go with DiBiase in that one, to be honest with you. The way they were leading towards it, I thought they were going DiBiase.
I'll say for me, like the one thing that I was just like, come on, guys, was probably the Money in the Bank match. No, I mean, I was hoping like Drew McIntyre or Christian or one of those guys would take the briefcase, or
Who
even
won
like
that year? I don't remember who won that year.
Jack
Who?
Swagger. Jack
Swagger.
Swagger.
Yep. I loved his cash in though, man. I did. I was a big fan of that. I remember watching
That
that
was
cash in.
cool. I'll miss it out. I'll miss it out. I just think there's a number of those guys where I just think like they could have like kind of developed him a little more, or gave him a little more time before they gave him the push, you know. And I mean, there's not a ton of guys like that, but there's a number of them where it's like, I feels like they kind of just had the rocket ship on them, and it's like it could have been. I mean, granted, like you said, the cash in was like so freaking memorable, but it's just like if they would have gave it like. What if they had him win the world title, like when he was doing the Real American deal, wrestling, Alberto Del Rio at WrestleMania, because he had another big shot, at the title. And I mean, that would have been a cool moment to have him, even if they, they could have built off that first title run, and then years later, go back to it when they were having that match,
Well, when he came back as the Real American and had the whole, We the People gimmick, fans loved him at that time. That was the time to capitalize, and they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't, and that was very upsetting to watch, because that was that moment where you were like, okay, this is it. But they didn't do it, and it was kind of a bummer. But just watching that pay-per-view, watching that triple threat match, like you said, Batista and Cena, the chemistry between the two, you can't go wrong with it. Edge versus Jericho was such an underrated banger. That whole card was just fantastic from start to finish. And I remember watching it like it was yesterday. Now that we ran down the card, I remember exactly the matches and how it played out and everything like that. It's funny that when people mention like the cards to me, I'm like, I remember everything now, so it's crazy. Now we mentioned Shawn Michaels being somebody that was one of your favorites. Who were a couple other people that you really found that connection with? I know we talked about some heels that really found your way there. But who were like your all on favorites besides Sean, besides, watching like Edge and Jericho?
I mean, all time favorites, man. It's a good. I think it's a mix of just um, guys I really enjoy, whether it be character work or what they do in the ring, and then also just guys I've got to meet or guys I've got to pick their brain a little bit. I'm putting Sean right up there at the top. I'm gonna have to put a guy like probably like Chris Jericho just for how innovative he's been over the years. Reinventing his character, finding success any and everywhere he goes. Big thing he did. And I remember I read all his books, years ago. There's actually a chapter of his book called Wichita, which that's where I'm based out of. That's where I lived most of my life is Wichita. He has a chapter in his book called Wichita because he had a little stint way back when before he signed with WWF and WCW when he was just on the indies out here doing stuff way back in the day. And that's kind of cool reading about that. And
Yeah.
the big thing he did is he went all around the world, man, learned all these different styles and learned different ways to kind of be a performer,
Oh,
and that's what
absolutely.
I want to do. Right now I'm just starting trying to find the best places, the best trainers, the best schools in the U.S. that I can go train at. But eventually, if I ever get a chance to go, overseas, that's one thing I want to do too is try to learn the styles. Different, different countries have got different ways of wrestling and different crowds, and trying to do the best I can to get myself out there and learn.
Yeah.
But Chris Jericho's up there. I put Dustin Rhodes up there and AR Fox. I'm biased because I spend time training with them. But Dustin's one of the best character workers. And he's just such a giving person as well. When he's training and he does a good job listening, but also like telling you exactly what you're doing wrong.
Yeah, man.
He's a little, he'll tell you what you're doing wrong, and it was cool seeing. I first originally trained with Fox, and that was really that whole about 10 months I was out there. I wish I would have spent my time better. That man's has got a wealth of knowledge, and that man, he's out there. He wrestles with the students. They do a weekly show every week. The WWE4 every Thursday. I'm not sure if you heard. Did you hear what happened at the WWE4 show this Thursday?
Yes. Darby and Sting showed up. Yep.
Me and Stevie showed up, man. Good grief, and they got booed out of the arena, man. That
Oh, for sure.
it's a mixture of students and the hostile Atlanta crowd that loves Fox and everything he does. So, yeah, man. I mean, I condemn Sting and Darby for walking into enemy territory right there, and that was cool. Like when I was out there at Atlanta, Darby was there very frequently. He was living out in Atlanta. And I think it was when he was living in his car out there in Atlanta. He'd come train with Fox and train at the WWE4, and now seeing Fox and Darby both in AEW squaring off against each other, like it's crazy, man. Seeing all of these guys like years later, kind of still working together, still helping each other in the business, but by literally bringing in the Stinger and with a
Yep.
baseball bat, and bringing Swerve in, who it's crazy, man. All ends coming up next weekend, and all of them deserve to show out and show what they can do.
Oh, especially, I like Sting. I've been a Sting fan for a while. Darby's such a risk taker, man. He puts his body on the line just to entertain the fans, and I think that's absolutely insane, but awesome at the same time. So shout out to Darby. But man,
Obviously, Fox is about just as crazy and would do just as much to put his body on the line as Darby would. I'm just gonna say that right
yep,
now. I mean,
yep,
Darby's done some pretty gnarly stuff, but he's been an animal doing stuff like that for a lot longer. So it's
yep.
just like
And I was
you
just
gotta
about
watch
to
out.
say that, man, because AR Fox is such a legend in the
Yes.
pro wrestling business. And if people listen to this and they disagree, you obviously don't fucking understand wrestling because AR Fox is a fucking legend.
And
Yeah,
it's crazy after seeing him get signed. You're seeing a whole new side of Fox, him teaming with Swerve and just
yeah,
seeing what they could do together. But you got to know, Fox is one of those guys. If you're in his favor, if you're someone that's, if you're willing to put in the work and be someone to work under him and learn under him, he's gonna give you everything he's got, man. Like, yeah, this is how reassuring he is. I never had to have my big debut at my school there. I did some matches that we filmed for YouTube, and then I did a battle royal at one of the shows. But like, you know, I was close, but I just never started to hit my stride and, you know, get my moment. I did a lot of refereeing, you know, filmed some stuff out there. I was really into filming promos and, you know, filming some of the shows. But, you know, I just didn't use my time as wisely. But like, you know, we do a show on Thursday, you know, film it. And after the show, we'd go back to Fox and his wife's apartment and we just all, you know, sit back and watch the show back. And, you know, just, you know, Fox will always be so reassuring, you know, dude, your progress is just amazing. I want to work with you, and I'm ready for you to graduate. Stuff like that, because like he's out there wrestling his students. You know, a lot of times when someone graduates from the WA4, the first person they wrestle is Fox, and it's just,
Yeah.
you know, being such good hands, especially for your first big match. You know, that's something that's, you know, stands out a lot. That, you know, you gotta learn under this person, and they've been in business as long as someone like he has, and that's who you get to work with. It's just, you know, it's, you know, I really respect, you know, a lot of the stuff a lot of all the schools, what Dustin does there in the Austin area, and what Fox does out in Atlanta. Like, those guys are really giving back to the future of professional wrestling, you know, and it just speaks volumes on how they've evolved over the years as performers, and you know, just, you know, they've learned so much. Now it's just like it's ready to kind of just show the rest of us what to do, you know.
Oh yeah, and you know, like you said, Dustin. I mean, dude, he just gets better and better. It's crazy, like how good that man is in the ring, especially right now. It's unthinkable because you see wrestlers at his age slowing down, and you don't see Dustin slowing down. He just keeps going, man, full force, and it's insane to see. I mean, and then especially with what he's doing at his school and everything like that, like Dustin, man, just absolutely incredible. I've been a fan of Dustin's work for almost 2 decades. Such an amazing athlete. The first time I really seen Dustin was when he came to TNA as just Dustin Rhodes, and like, you know, he killed it. And then the second time I seen him, actually, when the first time I seen him in WWE, he came back. I want to say he sided with Jonathan Coachman, and it was him and Vader that returned to help Coach do some shit. I don't remember what it was. He came back as a heel, and then he had his run with WWE and just continued to get better and did his thing with Cody and Dusty, and you know, just everything he was doing, and then going to AEW. And you know, I seen that the Nightmare Factory, Cody Rhodes and QT's school started doing the Nightmare Factory showcases. And then I heard about Dustin opening his school, and just something about the RWA is just so special because
Oh yeah.
not only is it giving, you know, guys who like Chad Lennox and Lucas Chase, you know, who have been wrestling for years prior, an opportunity to show who they are now, but it gives newer upcomers like yourself and Slim Seven that opportunity to get out there and get your name noticed. And guys like me who look out for new talent love the showcases and love the fact that, you know, whoever's doing the video, you know, tapings and everything like that, putting everything together, I give you a round of applause because putting the you know,
Guys, I
whatever
think his name
the
his
handles
name
and stuff for social media, you know, and stuff like that to find you guys, to follow your guys' career. Bravo to them, because on Nightmare Factory, nothing against them because they're great. I love what they do as well, but it's harder to find those wrestlers than to follow their career. What RWA is doing is it gives everything. Like, it gives you the way to find them on social media and the way to continue to watch them grow, and it's awesome. Everything about the RWA is absolutely fantastic. Has the championship
he's really
golds.
not just like he's really built. Not, he has really built up something great there, but it's only going to get better, man. Like, he's invested a lot. You know, like world class facility they got there. You know, they got two AW like size, you know, rings that are just, you know, top tier, man. Those rings are great to learn in. The facility is awesome. The way he runs it, I'm not sure if he's still doing, if Dustin's still doing deck workouts, but that's how we generally start each train session. Is we'd have a deck of cards, 4 different workouts. Each card was a different amount of reps we do, and so, you know, we were definitely just gassed all the time. You know, we would do a broom drill pretty frequently, which is just, you know, drop downs in front of a broom, jump to the other side, do another drop down. We do that for a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes straight. Sometimes even, you know, 5 minutes. Like, we do those. You know, he'd really like work our endurance there. And, you know, one thing Dustin, you know, we learned everything, which is, we had a contract class. We would take a Pilates class, which is really cool. We would do just different ways to like negotiate your contract and what to do about getting rights to your character.
Yeah.
Learning a lot of different character work and trying to develop as a character. Dustin's one of the best character workers of all time, and so and not just that, but like he's gotten in hands down the best shape I think I've seen him. So I've watched a lot of his career. I started watching late, but 1 second here. 1 second.
You're good, man.
Okay, sorry. I got people pull up in the Dutch's driveway. I'm just trying to figure out who's driving such a nice car in my driveway, but we're all good there. Yeah, it's smoldering out here, by the way. I love this setup. I wanted to kind of show off a little bit. We're moving around, but I got some of my on-hand movie collection there. We got our entrance jacket here, but it's about 107 degrees out here in Wichita, Kansas.
Oh,
I
man.
finally decided. I said I had it, and I opened up the freezer door. I got the freezer kind of just
Blowing a little cold there your way. I get it.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, no, I mean, I agree, man. Dustin's character work is absolutely fantastic. I was a big fan of the Black Rain character. I know a lot of people that weren't, but I personally was. I loved it. I was so mesmerized by what he was doing with it that it was just captivating. And I know I don't know for 100% fact if Dustin was a fan of the character or not, but I know personally I was a big fan of that character. I thought it was brilliant. So seeing him do that run was really cool.
Anything Dustin takes, when they gave him the Goldust gimmick, it's just I think he was kind of just ready to get out of his dad's shadow and do something different, and they kind of gave him lemons, and he just made orange juice with it, made lemonade. He made they kind of gave him something that was a lot harder than that to pull off and to do as well as he did, and not just that, but kind of keep developing it over the years, and kind of is one of those wrestlers that can really stand the test of time. That's something Dustin can do. And it's like the fact that we're still we're talking a lot of years later because he's getting to kind of go do another run here in AEW and teach all the students. It's just like it's crazy. Like seeing he's been in the business 33, 34, 35 years. He's been in the business a long time, and just those guys that have been is successful and is been able to stay relevant even though they've had they've had character changes, they've had different things come up in their life, but seeing them kind of just stay with the times, evolve, and not just that, but give back. It's like those are some of that's why they're in my top 5, top 10 wrestlers of all. I'm gonna say for Dustin and Fox, they're my top 5 of all time. They they kind of definitely hold a special place. The fact that I got to learn under them and train with them, it's just something. Even though it didn't play out the way I wanted it to. Either time I wish I would have stayed longer in Atlanta. And I wish I wouldn't have broken my hand at RWA and but you kind of got to take what life hands you and kind of just do the best with what you got. And I'm trying to take everything I learned and took from those guys and making it into the best wrestler I can be. It's just I feel like a little bit of a sleeping giant out here in the Midwest. I haven't been able to do as many shows as I wanted to, and now I'm finally about to get a little bit of stretch my legs a bit and do a good 6-7 show stretch for the rest of the year, and kind of see what I can kind of do with that, man. Just
absolutely. And those shows, man. Even the 6-7 shows that you're doing, you don't know who's watching. You got scouts watching just matches off YouTube, and seeing who's out there doing their thing. It's crazy.
My match a week from today. I'm glad we did this. That's a big reason why I wanted to redo this too, is because I wanted to give it a little more time, get a little closer to when these shows are coming up. Because if anyone sees this and anyone wants to, come support Dutch McClane or support Kansas wrestling, man, we got the XWE, their Gold Rush that comes up next Saturday in Salina, Kansas at the Salina Fieldhouse. And I'll be wrestling for the NCAA Oklahoma Championship. wrestling Sean Lau and the champion Tino Valentino, trained at the Black and Blade Wrestling Academy. And when we get out there, lights, camera, action, we're gonna put some magic on, man. We're gonna work one hell of a match. We're gonna work our asses off to give people something they haven't seen before. And a triple threat means no rules, man. Uh, you might see a whole new side of Dutch when the lights go out. And
Oh,
I can
absolutely.
guarantee you, the chances of you seeing a new NCAA Oklahoma champion are a lot higher than you might think. So stay tuned. You might see some posts with the new champion, some videos of some people getting dropped on their head, and you never know, man. We only a week away. Well, a week we'll see. So
Hey man, and you know what? Here's how we look at it. You're the director. We have the best director award as a championship title belt that's coming home for Dutch McClane. Hey, you know what, man? We're gonna have so much more as far as gold comes in your future because not only do you have the look of a main event player, I guarantee within the next 5 years we're gonna be hearing the name Dutch McClane everywhere. I'm really stoked to see that. Now I'm really curious. As far as like your name, how you got the name Dutch McClane. Obviously, McClane comes from Die Hard. We have to know Die Hard movies 1 through 5. Rate them.
oh, and I got Die Hard literally sitting right here. I got my box of movies. We got X-Men Days of Future Past, Indiana Jones, Die Hard, and Skyfall. I mean, some of them are all-time favorites, and some of them are just movies I got. But Die Hard 1 through 5, man. I've definitely got to put the last one at the very bottom. As a good day to Die Hard. That the last two, the first one, 4 was amazing, very solid. Second one, it just wasn't, it wasn't in the cards for it to be a good movie. They were trying to do too much. There might have been some legs with the story, but just it was not for me. Die Hard 2, I'll put it number 4. I really enjoyed it, and I think the bad guy in that one, it was the one at the airport with the
Yep.
airplane. That
Yep.
was Hans Gruber's brother.
Yep.
That one's very solid, but I mean, just the other 3 I have on my list are just so freaking good, man. I'd put Live Free or Die Hard at number 3. I'd say like the newer take of John McClane and Die Hard and the whole series, that was such a good go. Justin Long's character was great too. Really invested in all the characters, and all the actions sequences felt like, felt like they were trying too hard, or it felt like it really fit with the story. And um, this one's tough, man. It's a toss up. It might be a toss up for Die Hard with a Vengeance and Die Hard 1. I'm going to put 1. I just said 1 just because that's by the smallest error, just because of how groundbreaking it was, man, and like how it really defined the action genre. And it also being one of the best Christmas movies of all time, which is just, if you don't think Die Hard's a Christmas movie, we're gonna have some words, because it definitely is. Die Hard 3 though is just one of my all-time favorite action movies. Samuel L. Jackson really kind of gave like that movie a whole different John McClane to play off of, and just that's probably my ranking. Die Hard with not Die Hard with the Vengeance, goodness gracious. A Good Day to Die Hard, Die Hard 2, Live Free or Die Hard, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and Die Hard 1. That's how I'd go, bottom to top.
I can't disagree with that, man. I have to agree 100%, especially with it being the best Christmas movie of all time.
Oh yes, for sure.
Can't go wrong with it. Besides Die Hard, what is your favorite Bruce Willis movie?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I know I'm gonna have to go Cop Out with Tracy Morgan. I love that movie. It's fantastic. It's a great comedy. One of the
Underrated
best.
wise, I'd probably go Red. It's not like
Red is fantastic.
Red is fantastic, and like, I mean, you could definitely make a huge argument that there's better Bruce Willis movies out, but like that was such a great cast. I feel like it was kind of like not a more tame version of like Expendables. It took a lot of those like former action stars, or kind of like actors that all kind of fit that same mold to be in that movie.
Yeah.
I feel like it did a little better in my opinion. I enjoyed it more than like those other ones, but Red, I love John Malkovich, love Morgan Freeman. I mean, everyone in those movies are just top tier. I'm
They
trying to
were
think what.
great. I was so upset that they never made a third. I was bummed because they were great. Both the first two, fantastic.
Man, I'm trying to think. Hold on a second. I'm pulling this up real quick because I know there's some more Bruce Willis movies. I'm having a straight brain fart right now because I know there's more that are just top.
He's great, man, and I'm so sitting here praying for his health and everything like that, man. I know he's in a bad way right now, but you know, we miss him in acting. One of the absolute greatest of all time.
Oh, dude, for sure, 100%. Like when I first heard about that news, there, it just that was tough. That was like because like that's one of those guys you watch growing up. You know, Sixth Sense. That's another good one that I would put up there as well. I think for me, another top one was Unbreakable. Not your like not your normal superhero movie, but I love it in the M Night Shyamalan or M Night Shyamalan. I can't even can't talk right. What he does, man. This is style filmmaking, bro. That's like I want to get into filmmaking. Besides wrestling, I want to try to do as much as wrestling I can, and may have that be my main focus. But I think eventually, as I finally decide to venture out into something else, I think going to film school. I've looked into a lot of different film schools I want to look into, or even just kind of saving up money, investing in my own gear, and investing, trying to finance my own movie. Filmmaking would be really cool to do. I've seen a lot of guys breaking, not a lot of guys like personally, but like The Rock, John Cena, Batista, they all broke out of wrestling into Hollywood, but like onto the acting side. I want to try to be one of those guys that makes it into wrestling and branches off. Use my connection, use my experience in wrestling, and my highlights there. That break into filmmaking, whether it be producing or directing or cinematography, something along those lines. And that's really what's fueling the gimmick that I'm working on right now, and this fueling what I'm trying to do here. Because there's so many stories that could be told in film, television, this, and also in wrestling, which is cool. But there's a way. I think there's a little bit of a lack of interlap, in movies and shows and stuff you just turn the TV on to watch and trying to get that kind of going with the wrestling a little bit. And we see guys like Kenny Omega and other guys that use anime and video games
Yeah.
for inspiration for a lot of stuff. And a lot of video games have inspired me too, but movies have probably been my biggest source of inspiration. So being able to incorporate that into my matches and what I put out there content wise, I'm really excited for. We're going to start seeing the Dutch McClane, the Joe Wenzel, being my main source of social media, transferring over to Dutch McClane being my main presence online. I think as I do these matches coming up, start building a little bit more of a reputation in my hometown and the towns nearby. And then, towards the end of the year, early next year, if I start venturing off somewhere else, switch that. Joe Wenzel's going to slowly fade. Not slowly fade, but, Dutch McClane is definitely going to take the forefront in, what we put out there and what we aim to be.
Oh, absolutely. I know we mentioned earlier in the show, and I know on the rough cuts that we've done in the show, we've talked before about, making that statement, making that one match that you wanted to have in the RWA, getting back there, having your one showcase match. If you were to have that showcase match, who would it be against and why?
It's tough. If I was back in the RWA, and I'm talking like before my injury, we had our promo class where we kind of just cut promos and, we filmed our very first promos at RWA and we kind of just went off. One of the first people I thought about talking about and, kind of just going off my promo then was Chad Lennox. And, I kind of held my tongue a little bit. I was nervous and I decided to let other people go first. And then, Slim Seven ended up calling out Chad Lennox, and that's the big match he ended up getting. And I got my match teaming with Mr. Ali in that big tag team match, and then I got hurt, and kind of the way everything played out. I'm glad Slim was there to kind of just fill the void for me not being there. But at first I would say Chad Lennox. That's who I originally I was wanting to call out, but I just held my tongue. But now it's kind of changed, Mr. Slim 7, I hope you hear this, man, because I know you'd like to talk about, how happy you are that you were able to be in that tag match and do that frog splash for me. But, you know, that was just a moment in time that just came to be, man. Everything played out the way it was. You had your match with what, Mr. Chad Lennox, and then you decided to have a tag match in my honor as well. Well, that was for Joey Wins, Wild Joey Wins, and the RWA is like the Wild West, but we have a new man in town that does not want to take no for an answer. Whether I hear something back or whether I hear from a Chad Lennox or a Lucas Chase or a Slim Seven, the whole armada, it's just you guys kind of parade there and do what you want to do, while the rest of us kind of just get pushed to the side. I never had one kind of message or phone call, not from Dustin, not from anyone there at that school besides my little posse, my gang, the Wrestle House, Mr. Kane, Nikki. Yeah, I haven't heard. I mean, I don't even think you follow me, Slim. I think you followed me for a while, and then eventually you unfollowed me. And uh, you know, I know you're proud to talk about stepping in for me, but the fact that you can't even keep in touch or say how's your hand doing, man, it's just it's all rubbing me the wrong way, man. I got my own crew now. I got my own film set. We got our own cameras. What's stopping me from showing up to RWA and showing you the director's cut? That's just what I got to say to that, man. And if you ever want to do something, Mr. Slim, if you ever want to share the ring, we both learned under the same guy, man. We both learned under Dustin, and I can tell you right now, Dutch McClane does not wrestle the same as Wild Joey Wins. So if you do decide to do something about this, you'll know where to find me. We're ready for whatever the picture decides to be. I just like to work on what could be, what should be, and building upon that, because that's what a director does. There's a lot of legs here. We both train under the same guy, but you were the chosen one. You were chosen, and you've had a lot of good time there, but I think it's time for me to have my flowers. It's time for me to show what I learned under Dustin and to show Dutch McClane cannot be stopped, man. We got so much on the horizon, and even though it feels like we lost it all breaking our hand, man, being from Phoenix, man, I'm a Phoenix rising from these ashes, man. We're just going to see a whole new evolution of Dutch McClane and a whole new evolution of the Midwest wrestling scene. And, wherever I take it next, man, that's just wherever I go next. We're just going to keep learning and keep, stepping on toes and everywhere we go.
Hey, man, Dutch McClane, Slim 7, match 1 would be fantastic. I'm, for one, excited to see that happen when it does happen, because I think there's a story there 100%, especially with how everything played out. We got to do it.
Dustin, if you ever decide to run the RWA as more like a promotion and a school, let wrestlers stay there and develop their character. You're going to have crowds that they can wrestle in front of. That's something I would definitely be interested in. That's something I would love to come back for. Being able to, and especially for moments like this, I didn't miss a single day of training when I was out at RWA. I missed a lot of going to school and making it for class at Fox's school. But I made sure not to miss a single day. So that really hurt. I spent a lot of time saving that money up and, making it out there and, working out in my spare time. But it just wasn't meant to be, maybe at another time, we'll get to see some more RWA and, what I have to offer, because I learned so much there at RWA, man. I have some crazy memories, man. If you go back and look at my Instagram and stuff like that, you'll see some cool moments there. One cool thing you didn't see, like, we were learning suplexes, vertical suplexes. I don't even know if Dustin knows this, because everyone was doing suplexes. A lot of people were trying to suplex. I'm not sure if you remember my tag team partner, Ali. That man's about 6'5", 6'6". No one could suplex him, man. I was the only one. I don't think Dustin was there, but I suplexed Ali, and then I also, who was the tallest student there, And then I was also able to suplex Alex Gunn, who was definitely the biggest guy there. I was able to suplex both of them. And then I remember the next training day, Dustin was back. And then everyone's trying to suplex Ali, and he finally was just like, "No one suplex them. It's too dangerous." And I held my tongue, but I wanted to be like, "Yo, I did it yesterday." But I'm just saying, your boy Dutch is, from Kansas, cornbread fed, man. We are built strong, man. We will put weight up. We will throw these wrestlers over our head. I don't care how big you are. I don't care how strong you are. You're going to make the director's cut regardless. And that director's cut is going to be me military pressing you out of the ring. So anyone who wants to step in the ring and be a part of the show, I'm just saying, be prepared, because you're going to be able to see things you don't think a guy like me should be able to do, but we can do these things. So as these matches come out, as I start getting my copy of the content and the footage, I'm going to start editing it. I'm going to put the director's touch on it. The director's cut a lot of times is just me kind of taking these things and putting them the way I want it to be told. There's one of the highlight deals I made a while ago. It was this year, but it was just a couple of practice matches, but I'd wrestled the same guy, one of the Midwest guys out here, and we had wrestled 2 practice matches. The first match we did out here, we structured the match. We talked about a lot. We were calling it as we were going, but the other match we ran it, called it on the fly. So we did this practice match. One, we kind of talked about before. The other one, we just danced with that one, man. We kind of just had fun with it. The first match, I won the structured match. Second match, Ray Leon went over me. But like, just kind of with what I was given, I had footage from just one of the practice matches completely. The other one, we only got about a minute or two of the other one. And so I'm like, well, I'm not sure what we can do with this, but I just took the best parts of both matches and kind of made it into like, this is pretty solid looking highlight reel match. But taking kind of like what you're given and being able to make something new out of it, that's what I want to do, and I want to look at where we might go next with wrestling, whether that be somewhere new or somewhere familiar. If Dustin never gives me the invitation or decides to, bring me back for anything, I'll be there in a heartbeat. I also want to go back and kind of finish what I started at the WWA 4, man. Like, I feel like they gave me all the opportunity in the world to work hard and succeed. I didn't give it 100%. And it's just, I've grown a lot over the years. And the thing about it is, like, I was probably the best shape, like mentally, like in the ring, speaking wise, like being able to move and do stuff, because like when I went out to Texas, kind of let go of myself physically and mentally, I was kind of a shell of myself out there. I wasn't wrestling and moving the same way I was when I was out at the WA4. And so, I want to go back and kind of take what I've learned from Dustin, and, this experience up until whenever I go somewhere, maybe even show back up at the WA4, man. I want to kind of right the wrongs is the right phrase, but kind of get another go at, some of these opportunities I've had, and kind of work on that and do better than I did the first time around, so it's just, WA4 is something, if Dustin ends up running more shows or more camps, or starts running RWA as a promotion, I'd love to do something with that. Also in Texas reality wrestling, man, Booker T's got one of the best schools out there in the Houston area, Texas City, I think. And that would be insane. If I train with Booker, I could say I train with the tag champions, train with Dustin, train with Booker. And that's another one of the schools like the WA4 where it's a school and it's also a promotion. So it's like, get to learn and grow there. The Monster Factory in New Jersey, I would say that's probably, as far as besides places I've gone, I would say that's the best school. Just for the amount of talent they put out. The trainer and owner, Danny Cage, it's freaking phenomenal, man. Like, I took a seminar he ran in Kansas City a month or two ago, and like just that short seminar, I learned way more than I expected to. Leading up to that, I'd watched the Monster Factory on Apple TV, and just like getting to learn a little bit under him. That'd be a really cool place to get to go and work to, because I know they run shows out there as well. But like the amount of people they put out, I think they put out like 11 or 12, like they've signed 11 or 12 wrestlers to major contracts, WWE, AEW, New Japan,
Yep.
TNT Impact, all these places in the past like 12 years. So they probably have the best track record of getting people signed. But there's so many things to play into it, man. I want to go learn under people that just, have not just a wealth of knowledge, because a lot of these guys do, but like they really want to help others, and they really want to kind of just be there for them and be a good mentor and be a good coach. Um, I'm lucky I've had that up until this point so far. So just finding more places I can learn and get different views of wrestling. Even as learning, the way Fox, thinks and trains, the way Dustin thinks and trains. Even just going to like Danny Cage's school, like he thinks very different too. Like I remember one thing I learned there was like, wrestling. There's so much stuff that goes into it. You could incorporate like, you know, I think being a wrestler is being a thespian. You're, being able to incorporate, like in my case, movies, TV shows, different books to read that might help you. I remember before I went to the RWA, I read Dustin's book 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
I still have it in my car. I bust it out. When I'm doing stuff in my car, I got time to waste, or a lot of times I'll just pick it out and start reading it. And I've read it through a lot of times. Chris Jericho's books. One I just bought was Toolbox by Mike Quackenbush. I know he's got a school too that he runs, and that would be a cool place to go to. It's just there's a lot of places to consider and to think about going. It's just I want to get as much solid training as I can. It's just with Fox's school, I gave it a good amount of time, but I just wasn't there as much as I could have been. And then I had to come home, like take care of stuff in my family who I hadn't seen in a long time. Take care of some legal stuff that was waiting for me when I came back, and so came home, took care of all the stuff I left behind when I left Wichita, and then saved up, got a car this time around, because when I first went to Atlanta, man, I didn't have nothing, man. I had $150 to my name. I took the Greyhound bus because I didn't have a car. And I just went out there. I had my tent and sleeping bag. I had no idea where I was going to go when I first started training out there at Fox's school. I visited a year before with a family friend.
You're cutting out again, Dutch.
But it wasn't until okay. You can hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But it wasn't until I really put myself in that sink or swim moment, man. Like just taking the bus out there to Atlanta and just kind of with my backpack and literally, they really kind of helped me. They helped me find a job. They helped me find a place to live while I was out there. And kind of like, I love those sink or swim moments where you kind of got to scratch and claw and crawl to kind of make it. And, I wish I would have set myself up for better success. Now I'm in a lot better place, financially, physically, mentally, so making it out there this time around, I have a car now, I have a little more money saved up. So it's like, if I do go back out there, I even have a place possibly to stay. I got some family out there in Atlanta, that I could probably stay with and get a good job with if I go out there. And so, I think it's a matter of, when I make it out there. When I was out there, the cream of the crop at the W4, like, and not to say they don't have it now, man. A lot of those guys that were out there when I was out there are still out there. You guys got guys like Blackjack Mac, like guys like ZZ, guys that will sometimes make an appearance out there. AC Mac, who's one of the best on the indies,
Yes.
man. If you don't know what AC Mac is, you gotta look into him, man. First
He
open
was
gate.
killing it, man. It's a shame that he stepped away, but he was absolutely killing it.
Yeah, but when I was out there, even guys, Darby was there frequently. With Darby would be there training frequently. Austin Theory was there. He was taking off on Evolve, and so he gave me my biggest moment there at the WA4, man. I did a lot of refereeing when I was doing before I started doing like that first Rumble match I did there, and I refereed one of Theory's matches. It was a triple threat match, and then it wasn't really, we didn't talk about it before, but after the match, he came out there and I was the referee. He was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna put you up for the TKO. Land on your feet, hit me with the Stone Cold Stunner." So he threw me up for the TKO. Landed on my feet. I hit him with the stunner. Crowd had like one crazy freaking pop, man. I ripped my ref shirt off and threw it at him. And then like years later, like watching him wrestle at WrestleMania, man, he took the Stone Cold Stunner from Stone Cold. And I shit you not, he sold it like this, just about the same way he sold it when I gave him the stunner back in the WBA4. So I mean,
Oh, yeah.
like, it's crazy seeing like these guys progress. It's like wrestling, like anything can happen, man. Like these guys that are working hard and like putting them out there in the best ways, those guys are making it. So like these guys that are really they're grinding. Um, Man, I don't know. There's a lot of guys I hope you guys look out for, like like I said, AC Mack and those guys, but like guys like Blackjack Mack, Takiri, Bobby Flacco, Cavron Canyon, those guys, David Ali, like the guys like
Yep.
those are they're grinding, they're moving all over the country. Not all of them are at the A4 still, but those guys all have roots there, um, and the whole that's a big thing I miss. As a lot of times when I was out there the last time, those guys would be doing all the Evolve FIP shows. They'd be going up and down the coast, going to New York frequently, Florida. And so I want to make it back out to the East Coast, whether that be Atlanta or maybe going to New Jersey. I want to go be somewhere where I'm going to get the most eyes on me and I'm going to have the most opportunities that are going to, move my career forward. I've talked to even just like meeting some wrestlers, that are in town for shows, that are like, I've met wrestlers at the gym before just working out, when they're in town for a show.
Yeah.
One of the coolest I met was years ago. I met Bray Wyatt, and he has so much wealth and knowledge to give me, like, and just really like reassuring, and also just kind of, I think this is before I went to Fox's school even, so this is years ago, and like he told me I should go to Seth Rollins' school. And I know Black and Brave Wrestling is one of the best places you can go.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But even like going to this that Danny Cage seminar, and then after that meeting some wrestlers that were just in town for the show. They all said the same thing. The place you want to be, wrestling wise, is out in the Northeast, man. So it's just like if I make it back out to Atlanta, if I make it to New Jersey, being able to go up and down the coast, and get the most matches and kind of develop what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do, man. I know those guys I used to run the ropes with out there in Georgia. They're doing shows all up and down Georgia, Alabama. They're doing shows all over the place. One of my buddies out there, he's about to do a little stint, I think, in California. And so,
That's
I'm
awesome.
trying to figure out where I want to go next, man. Besides, are you more of an AW or more of a WWE kind of guy?
WWE.
WWE?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's some of your all-time favorites? If you gotta go like all-time WWE favorite, like who's your top three WWE guys?
WWE, we're looking at Shawn. We're looking at Rob Van Dam. We're looking at Shelton Benjamin.
Okay, dude, I can't argue with that list at all, man. Shawn Michaels is my favorite too. Having guys like RVD and like Shelton Benjamin, man, those are just really underrated. Some of the most athletic guys you could possibly put up on there. So I mean,
Oh yeah.
those guys are some of the best, and just like
Shelton, I can never say anything negative towards. I mean, obviously, I can never say anything negative towards Shawn or Van Dam either, but there's always been something captivating, special with Shelton. And it's been, I mean, one of my favorite all time moments is when he pinned Triple H. Like, I have that memory, like, in my head, like, every single day I can think about it. But my favorite list is something different than what I think the greatest of all time is. I every time I get the opportunity to talk about it, I think the greatest performer, greatest wrestler, greatest everything when it comes to the world of pro wrestling is Alex Shelley.
yeah,
There's no question about it. Alex Shelley, I think, has literally learned his craft from everywhere around the world. He is the greatest all-time performer ever.
and,
Anybody that can
yeah,
argue that, I could literally say, you know what, tell me somebody better, and I will tell you Alex Shelley is better. There's no
I love
question.
Alex Shelley, man. I've been watching because like before, like my first experience watching wrestling was TNA back in 2007. Like my uncle was had it on, and my grandparents one time, like late at night. I just remember watching some old classic TNA. I think I remember like James Storm or Robert Roode, like pre beer money,
Yep.
just doing their stuff. But then even like stuff like Alex Shelley and I'll say for Motor City Machine Guns, I'm a little more towards Team Saban. I love Alex Shelley as well. Like he's got, like his paparazzi gimmick. That's got a lot of, for what I'm trying to do and what I'm working on. The director's cut Dutch McClane, director's cut Dutch. It's just there's a lot of stuff I'm trying to take from guys who've done stuff similar, but like not exactly what they do. Did a little bit of my own kind of ideas, my own spin on it, what I'm trying to present myself as. But
Yep.
Alex Shelley, I'm definitely taking a lot from what he did way back in the 2000s, and just
No, definitely. And I think about it every day. Like, Chris Sabin's my third favorite all-time wrestler in general when it comes to pro wrestling. Alex Shelley, I think, is the greatest performer of all time. But
he's
the Machine Guns are my favorite tag team of all time. So
he's Impact champion, isn't he?
Alex Shelley, yeah.
Yep, yeah.
He's deserved it. He's busted his ass. He's earned it. I honestly thought I was scared that Aldis was going to beat him for the title. And I really was not wanting that. And no offense to Nick, because Nick is fantastic. He's awesome. I won't take anything away from him or discredit him, but Alex Shelley deserves this, man. He's busted his ass. And here's somebody that I watched who teamed up with Abyss when he first started in TNA and did the paparazzi production, then to Motor City Machine Guns, then finally won the X Division title, became tag team champion. He's a Triple Crown in Impact TNA, whatever, same promotion in my opinion, obviously, because it just changed names. But Alex Shelley, hands down, greatest of all time.
I think for me, opposite of that, if I was at my list of his personal favorites, I'm putting Brian Danielson. Daniel Brian Danielson up there. I
Yep.
followed his career for a good while before he even went to the WWE. Back when he was in Ring of Honor and the Independence, and then I started watching. The year I went to WrestleMania was 2010, and that's when the first wave of NXT, the original game show, he was on.
Yep.
That's when right before Nexus started. That was just taking off. Like I remember they introduced him from the first season, and like, oh, I remember this guy. I've watched some of his stuff before.
Yep.
And watch his whole career in WWE, and now back to his roots is Brian Danielson, just kicking people's fucking head, and it's just like,
Yep.
Brian Danielson is one of my favorite guys to watch, just because he's a pure worker, man. That guy is just,
oh yeah,
and in the ring with, he's going to put arguably their best match, and then his best match. I mean, him being trained by Shawn Michaels and guys like Spanky, Brian Kendricks. I think that's one of your guys. That's you one of your favorites as
that
well.
is my
right?
third greatest, in my opinion, the third greatest of all time.
Those guys.
Fourth, I lied, because TJ Perkins is number 3, Kurt Angle's number 2.
Okay. I'm putting, for me, for like these workers, especially current workers, Brian Danielson, AJ Styles, Kenny Omega, definitely up there as well.
Yep.
Those guys are so freaking phenomenal. Will Ospreay too. Like, I've always been a fan of him. I remember like years ago, like 2016, 2015, even maybe a little before that.
Yep.
Like he was such a good like high flyer. Like his matches with Ricochet. Yeah, I remember he had a really good match with Styles before, like in that period where Styles is in between leaving TNA and was in New Japan, and then was also doing other indies before going to WWE. And his matches with Ospreay and Styles, and then his match, like the scene is what he's doing now, because he still does a lot of the same stuff. Don't get me wrong, but like this, like all the other little stuff he does, like that man is one of the best in the world. Probably is the best in the world right now. I would say, like singles wrestlers, man. Like
he's killing it. I mean, I think Ospreay's great. I don't shit on Ospreay at all. I think he's fantastic. I remember the first.
You got to watch though. I just randomly thought of it. Specifically, remember you got to go back and watch AR Fox versus AJ Styles.
I'll have to check that out.
It's an indie show. It's on YouTube, but I would definitely go back if you haven't seen that one. That one's really solid.
No, I definitely have to watch it. AJ Styles, one of the greatest of all time. I have been a fan of Styles since, I want to say, 2003. The first time I seen him, in TNA, I knew he was something special. They had this program on. It was, I want to say, in 2003. It was on Spike TV. It was on a Saturday night. I want to say just a random Saturday night. I don't know why, but it was Styles versus Jarrett. And that was the moment I got hooked on Styles, because everything after he did that was just like, I don't care if he's a heel. I don't care if he's a face. This guy is incredible. There's no question about it. AJ Styles is one of the greatest performers of all time, any generation, hands down. It's going to be a really, really upsetting day, the day he hangs up his boots, because
I
man,
want him to get one more title run, like one more world title run at least in there. See him do more. I want him to do another program with Roman too. I mean, even if he does that program, loses that, but eventually, either wins the world heavyweight title or the
yep,
undisputed title. I mean, I think he should get another world title run, and then
yep,
even I keep always circling back to these guys, but I read a lot of these articles, a lot of these top 10 lists, a lot of different wrestling. When I'm at work, man, I'm reading a lot of these different pages and you're trying to get as many people's opinions on what's going on. One of the pages, posted a top 10 AW, basically like their top 10 AW dark horses to win the world title, like guys that
yep,
we all think should win the world title, but they probably won't. Unfortunately, it's like guys that we wish they would just, if they're gonna just pick a random person and put the title on, this should be one of the people they should. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm trying to
yep.
say with that? Like the
No,
first one
definitely.
was Dustin, and Dustin, I mean, if Dustin's number one world title for AW, WWE, TNA. But he's one of those guys that always should have, those
Yep,
guys that for as good as he was and the amount of just compelling content and just how good of a person and worker he is, he should have been a world champion. His connection with the crowd, that man should have been a world champion. So he was like the first one on the list. I was like, okay, I would definitely be okay with a
me
Dustin
too.
Rhodes world title run. Like if they just gave that world title and let him run with it until we lost it, we're gonna have some amazing matches, amazing storylines. We'll get to see Dustin have more screen time, do more with his character work.
Yep.
Uh, that's just something I think a lot of fans want. And, I think that'd be like if you think about it, you're like Dustin Rhodes is world champion, but it's like that man needs his flowers, man. Like that man's done so much, and if they gave him that title, he would do so much with it. He'd run with it, man, and
And his phrase for the RWA, passion lives here. I mean, that literally, you could tell passion starts with Dustin Rhodes. You
that's
know,
basically engulfs who he is, man. I mean, he's one of the most passionate dudes you got. Um, but then even going down on the list, there's a lot of guys that were on that list, but number farther down the list, closer to one, six, it's I think 6 or 5 was AR Fox, and I was like,
yep,
whoa. I think it's so cool to see Fox, who's been grinding for years on the indies and really he's finally, he had his good stuff and his good stint in Lucha Underground, but it's been a bit since he was on there. Now seeing all he's doing in AEW, it's different title matches he's had with I think Samoa Joe, the trios matches he's had. It's just and now he has match with Swerve, and now he's teaming with Swerve. But I think people are like, hey, this guy would be a good guy to put the belt on. This is
yep.
Rocket Fox is a real thing. If you want to strap a title on and a rocket on that man, do it. It's been done before. It's not been done for a while. That man was the first ever Evolve champion. Man, that was he was the first champion in Evolve's history. Seeing
Yep.
everything that was done with that company. Now WWE owns Evolve. Gabe Sapolsky, the guy who started Ring of Honor, also started Evolve. Now is this big scout for WWE. He was Paul Heyman's protege. And Fox was the first guy, man, that was just there. He used to be a killer in CZW, and now he's on national TV. He's
Yep.
about to freaking wrestle at Wembley Stadium, 80,000 people, and
And he deserves this.
wrestling event outside of anything WWE's done. And dude, that is that's the perfect place for him to be. Is that group of with Swerve and that match at Wembley? It's so well deserved. He's gonna
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if that man does some of the crazy stuff he's done yet up into his wrestling career. That man knows what he's working with. He knows how big of a show that is. I can guarantee you, if you watch All In, some of the most jaw-dropping sequences are going to be from the AR Fox, Swerve, Darby Allin, Sting match.
It's going to be
We're gonna.
great. I mean,
Oh,
the chemistry Swerve and Fox have together already. I mean, from their Lucha Underground days to now. I mean, I'm super excited for that one, because Swerve 100% deserves his opportunity. AR Fox 100% deserves this opportunity. Both have been busting their asses, and I feel like both of them get underlooked way more than they should. They deserve so much more. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to not only just put the strap on Fox, but to put the strap on Swerve, because together I think they're going to do something magical. I can't wait to see what happens next with them. All In is going to be fantastic. It's going to be a great show. I can't wait to watch that one. It's going to be something special. I'm very intrigued who Blackpool Combat Club is going to get as their other three partners. Very curious about that one. I wouldn't
What
be
do you think
surprised.
about the Santana and Ortiz making a return?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Chris Harrow, possibly. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Nigel McGuinness, because there's been rumor about that one too. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Ortiz and Santana might be the biggest swerve of them all because it's against Eddie Kingston. So I think that would be the biggest swerve of them all. I'm really curious who else was on that list, because I have my personal top three favorites in AEW as well, and they're all three very underrated stars. I think they're all three very talented. I've been a fan of Trent Beretta forever. Trent is one of the most fantastic athletes, and he deserves his flowers as well. Doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. Kip Sabian, another one of the most fantastic, most underrated wrestlers. I love everything he's been doing. And the dark horse of the Dark Order, Alex Reynolds. I think Alex Reynolds is a guy who I've watched for a while, who I think definitely could either break out as a solo star, continue to strive in the Dark Order, but definitely somebody who doesn't get the recognition he deserves. You hear people talk about John Silver, you hear people talk about Evil Uno, but you don't get the recognition Alex Reynolds is getting. He doesn't get the love and respect he deserves, and he's out there busting his ass just like the rest of them. So Alex Reynolds is one of those guys I truly think is going to be somebody that everybody starts talking about, hopefully here in the near future, because he truly deserves it.
No, I've watched a lot of Alex Reynolds. I remember, they brought in Evil Uno, and they brought everyone. They brought those two teams, Super Smash Bros. And they also brought in John Silver and Alex Reynolds, and it was hard for me to choose like in the Dark Order because they had those two tag teams, and they're both such great tag teams, and I've been following both of them for a decent amount of time before they joined the Dark Order.
Yep.
And so those are guys who definitely deserve more recognition. And it's like the thing with the Dark Order is like, and you kind of thought it was kind of done for, and then Brody took it over, and just everything's kind of history with that.
Yeah.
And like the fact that they're still going. I mean, not as strong as you'd like, but the fact that they're still wrestling, they're still on. I wish. It sucks too because like both the rosters for both WWE and AEW are so saturated. Like there's so many guys on both sides of the coin.
Yep.
And so it's like not everyone's getting TV time. Not everyone's going to be able to get presented. They're probably not going to be able to use their guys or as many guys as they want to use. It's because it's, how hard of a job it is to try to like juggle who's going to be on TV, who's not going to be on TV.
Right.
The people in power for these companies, I mean, it's just like, it sucks because they have so many guys that they can make stars, but while they're making these stars, other people just got to sit on the sides or take these losses. And it's just like, this is kind of how the wrestling world works. I mean, you just got to, I guess it's just, I don't know. You got to be in with the right people. You got to be able to politic. You got to be able to kind of just, you get over with the crowd, hopefully, whether that be the company pushing you on their end or you getting over just organically, how much of a draw you can be in the sense of getting people to come and watch. And, this, so I'm excited for these. I got shows coming up in Wichita, man. I got my Salina show next week. But I got 4 shows in Wichita starting September 23rd going through to December. So the ones in Salina are for XWE, and then the ones in Wichita are going to be for HCW, which is Heartland Championship Wrestling. And they actually broke apart from XWE. So the guy who used to be one of the main bookers promoters for XWE, he sold his portion of the company out to start his own new company. His name is Billy Simmons. He's a good dude, and he trains a lot of guys out here. And he's got a lot of guys that are brand new in the business, trains them. He's got established guys that come and train with him as well too. I'm one of his established guys that come and works with him. But Heartland Championship Wrestling, then we're going to be doing shows in Wichita. We're going to be doing shows in Leavenworth, Kansas as well. But the next show coming up, September 23rd, is Air Capital Brawl. They plastered Dutch McClane's Ugly Mug as big as they could on the poster. I'm about 1.5 as big as everyone else. So we got me and Ray on huge on the poster. Everyone else a little smaller. So I'm going to be promoting that show. I'm promoting XW Gold Rush coming up next week. So I'm definitely promoting Air Capital Brawl because I've done these Salina shows, I've done Hoisington shows, which is a couple hours away from where I'm at, based out of. And I was able to get about 12 or 15 people to come watch me out in Hoisington last year, and I've been telling these promoters, once you start running shows in Wichita, because we're the biggest city in Kansas, so I'm like, once you start running shows in Wichita, I can probably get 20, 25, 30 people out there to watch. I'm gonna draw a crowd, and so I'm excited to get as many people as I can out there. I don't want to give too much away. These people aren't gonna expect what they're gonna see. I think I might step on some toes and make some people not so happy. I got a lot of ideas. I'm working on an uphill battle though, because I got a lot of these people who know me, and people know me for years, and family that are coming out to watch. So I can almost guarantee you they're going to want to cheer for Dustin McClane, but I'm going to give them every reason not to. So I'm going to find a way to kind of get under even my people's skin. We're gonna.
That's
I
all you
like a good
can do.
shot. I like working with stuff that's hard to do. And so having a good amount of people that might cheer for me, I got to find a way right off the back to get that to stop. So you might see me do some things you wouldn't expect me to see, but we're gonna see how that goes. And I got a
Well,
lot of good ideas, man. This new gimmick, man. We have a lot of stuff we could do with it with these shows coming up, man. Director's cut Dutch. One little thing I'll give away is definitely coming out. Movie clapboard, man. Action cut, that stuff. My
yep.
next match is a triple threat match, man. If you know triple threat match, man, no rules, no disqualifications. Someone's getting busted over the head with that clapboard. Someone's fingers might just go there, and I'm gonna do a
Put them
little clap.
down.
And that's just the jumping off point with Director's Cut Dutch, man. There's so much stuff I can do. Movie, gear inspired, entrance gear inspired. You know, this is what I do with my promos and what I do to build up. Maybe eventually coming out with my own film crew. Employing my buddies or these people that do a lot of filming or have their own cameras. Bringing my own guys with me to make it feel like we're kind of like filming a movie. I could just stop mid-match, go up to the ropes, and start yelling at my guys and tell them they're fucking up and telling them they're doing shit wrong.
Yep.
Hey, you're not doing that right, man. Get a better shot. This stuff along those lines. But there's so much I could do, and build upon. It's got a lot of good legs to it. But I think even the Dutch name, man, it's got a lot of good legs to it. Like we talked about earlier, it's Dutch. Arnold's character from Predator, and then John McClane from Die Hard. So one of the promoters who runs shows out here, they still occasionally do shows. Is American Wrestling Revolution. I think we got a show for them coming up in Hoisington in September or so. But he came up with the Dutch McClane name, and originally his idea was for me to come out with this jacket and aviators, kind of a Top Gun Tom Cruise kind of gimmick.
Yep.
I wanted to keep adding to it though. That's already a replica movie jacket. That's something that would fit with the director's cut Dutch McClane gimmick. But I think
Oh,
a big thing I was coming up with my name for RWA. I did Wild Joey Wins, but when I was telling them my name ideas, I told them, well, the promoter out here wants to call me Dutch McClane. Everyone popped. Everyone's like, oh my god. And then Dustin was like, that's a good fucking name. And so I was like, I wish I would have just done that in the first place. And
yep.
my finishing move, I got a lot of finishing moves inspired by my name gimmick, but my main finishing move, besides my submissions, is the Die Hard, bro. Die Hard it's a cool finisher, man. It's Ricky Starks from AW actually helped me come up with the finisher.
Really?
When I originally used a Crossroads snapmare driver when I was at the WA4. That's what I came up with when I was out there. So Crossroads turned around into drop them on their head, snapmare driver, and I was going to use that for the show, for the showcase when I was at RWA. But they were like, "Hey, Shauna Reed or whoever's using she uses a snapmare driver," and so I think that's a lot of times that'll happen. If you're running shows with someone who's been doing it longer or someone that's been,
Yep.
someone's got a bigger name, you definitely want to show them the respect and not use what they're using. So,
Right.
I think it was definitely a blessing in disguise though, because coming up with something new, that's, I'm glad I ended up coming up with something new, because I came up with a finish. It's basically I have him for a neck breaker. The original move, I drop him face first onto my knee, and then pick him back up, and then do a kind of a face buster from the neck breaker position. But now,
I like it.
working on and doing that, Ricky was there doing something. He would come pretty frequently and like kind of work on stuff. And he would kind of popped in. He's like, "Hey, dude, this will be so much better, so much cleaner if you do this. Neck breaker, instead of dropping them to the knee, just straight kneeing them in the head and then dropping them straight on their head." And so it's a lot faster. It's a lot cleaner looking. And it just looks deadly. It looks deadly. A guy can just take a normal face bump with it, or if
Yep.
someone wants to be wild, they can take a spike bump, and it just looks absolutely brutal. Like, it's one of those moves that I think once I start doing it more frequently, people are gonna like, not just that move, but I have a lot of different moves. I don't think a lot of people have seen before. My main submission that I've been working on for years, the Dutch clutch. It's a figure four ankle lock. I've never
Oh,
seen
that's cool.
those two together. I use kind of like the Shawn Michaels style figure four.
Yeah,
So it's a little different than the Ric Flair one, but then with the ankle lock as well, it's really cool. I don't think I've seen anyone or a lot of people use it at the very least.
that's
I
pretty
do
dope. I like it.
I do a camel, so like the Cobra clutch. So the Cobra clutch, but I bring it to the ground, wrap my legs up with like a grapevine, so just a straight choke. That's the Joey choke. So it's kind of cool. Each of my submissions is a kind of a nod to one of my gimmicks or names I've used. So the Dutch clutch is the figure four ankle lock, and that's for Dutch McClane gimmick. That's my main one. The Cobra clutch on the ground, choking him out. The Joey choke. That's a shout out to Wild Joey Wins. And then lastly, I do a figure. This one I've actually used in a match. It's a full Nelson camel clutch. So literally full Nelson sitting on their back, wrenching them back. And that one I'm calling the Bach lock.
That
So
kind of hurts
basically,
me a little bit. Just thinking about that. It hurts my
it's
back.
nasty. It's nasty. Now, granted, the first time I did it, it was on a big dude. I wrestled for a title last year against Colt Kilbane, and that is one big dude. And so it was hard doing it on a really big guy, because you not only are going to full Nelson, but you're sitting over them and trying to stretch them out.
Yeah.
And not all big guys are flexible. So all these moves are stuff I gotta figure out the right person to do it on. Even another one of my finishers. My brother wants me to call it I came up with it with my brother in the pool years ago. It's called He wants to call it the dynamite flight. It's one of those moves I got to be with the right person to do it. But it's a razor's edge power bomb like setup. So I'll have him up for the razor's edge, but I flip him, catch him with a cutter.
I like it. I
So
like
it's
it.
I've another one of those things I haven't seen a lot of people use before. But as I got these 6, 7 bookings, 8 bookings coming up over the next few months, I want to bust a lot of these moves out. I want to tell good stories in the ring. Show off good psychology, what I learned from Dustin. Put on some huge moments and a lot of big spots, stuff I learned from Fox. Show a good mixture of not just the old school style and the psychology storytelling, the old style wrestling, but a lot of the new style. Being able to do a lot of these big high flying, big moves that tell stories. And like make it all make sense. I want to be one of those guys that have a good sense. I want to be like a hybrid, bro. That's basically what I want to do. I want to get a good sense of the old time, a good sense of the new school, and just kind of tell my own story from that, man. If I get my ideal, like, if I was able to pick exactly what I do next, if I can train as many people as possible too, like if I can train with Booker T, I could have 2 guys, Booker T and Dustin Rhodes. One's Booker T is a two-time Hall of Famer, right?
Yep.
Dustin's not a Hall of Famer yet, but he's one of those guys that is definitely going to be in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Oh, for sure. Hands
Guys
down.
that have been that big of a level in like WWE at like the hottest period of its time. So if I could train with those 2 of those guys that have been in WWE that are still wrestling or still doing stuff like that today, but then 2 guys like a guy like Fox or a guy like Danny Cage, guys that were really big on the independents that that really just needed to get that moment and show their flowers or get signed to that big company. It's like
Right.
I want to get a good sense of guys that are killing on the indies, or the guys that are just waiting to be signed to AEW, WWE, but then guys that, you know, are
Have done it.
legends of the industry. I want to have a good sense of every aspect of the wrestling world. You know, if I can train with the guys that have been putting on the biggest shows in the indies for like 15, 17 years, but guys who've also been on television every week. You know what I'm saying? I want a good mix because you never know what's going to happen in wrestling, man. You could
Right.
get signed to WWE, you could get signed to AEW, and you could actually go out there and make it huge. But I'm sure you've seen The Wrestler, the movie with Ricky Mork,
Yep.
Mickey. You know, it's one of my favorite movies, but it's emotional, man. The life and the ride of a wrestler is not always, you know, as great as it seems because they might release a guy or they might just tell you you're not connecting right with the crowd or you
Yep.
might get hurt and you can't wrestle. And so now you're back from being on TV to be on the indies.
Right.
So like being able to learn how to work these different styles. Dustin will tell us all the time, I'm not training you to wrestle in front of an independent crowd or wrestle these indies. I'm training you to get you TV ready.
Yep.
And that was the big thing, I think, and the different ways they taught, box, I think would be very focused on the crowds there because they do weekly shows in front of a live crowd for free every week. And
Right.
so I think box has always been about, doing as much as you can for the people there and get a good film, a good video while you're doing it. Dustin is like, we got the setup for TV. We're gonna, we're working with you so that you can be on TV. And so trying to take aspects of both, like want to be work like I want to work and prepare like I'm ready for TV, work the hard cam and do all that stuff and get the best camera angles in there. But also, you want to put on the best crowd for the people there, and working the indies is kind of how you make it up the ranks and how you kind of get that experience and that exposure. So
Oh, for
yeah,
sure.
I'm just excited to see to see where I go and what I do because you never know, man. I like to roll the dice, and you never know where I might go. I'm a wild man, bro. I wrestle as wild Joey wins, man. I'm just saying now, like the wins might take me somewhere you don't even expect. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm really excited to see what happens next, man. And like you said, I mean, learning your craft all across the board, I mean, is something definitely special and definitely something as a pro wrestler, you should definitely have the mindset of doing. And I definitely look to see what the future holds. And hey, every show needs a director. So we're definitely going to see more Dutch McClane out there. Dutch, I'm very excited to see what the future holds for you. I can't wait to watch you grow in your in-ring career. I think this is just the start, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for you, man.
Before we get out of here, I just want to give one last message out there. Dustin, Slim Seven, Chad Lennox. If you guys are looking for some new direction and a new way to promote your guys' Rhodes showcase, I think you guys are on what 8. You know how to get a hold of me. All right, Dutch McClane is on call, on deck, and all both of you, Chad Lennox, Slim Seven, I want to kick your ass, and so let's do something about it. Let's. Why don't you guys be in my next movie? Because I think that one's going to be a critically acclaimed hit once we finally get that one made. So thanks for having me, Matt, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. And you know what? I hope you keep doing these shows, man. You're really doing some great work out there for all of us, giving us a platform to get out there and kind of tell our story and kind of let us show what we're trying to do. So you're doing some stuff that I wish more people did, but even if they did do it, I think you're doing it probably better than just about anyone out there right now. So I'm
Thanks,
glad that
man.
I
I
got to do this
appreciate it.
show, man.
Absolutely. Dutch, do you want to tell the fans where they can find you at on social media?
Yeah. So right now, the best place to find me, I post the most on Facebook and Instagram. I do use Twitter mostly just to retweet wrestling nonsense. So if you want to find stuff like that, it's Joe_Wenzel, so JOE_WENZEL. And that's also my same name on Instagram. So JOE_WENZEL. And that's going to have the majority of my wrestling content. The majority of my highlight videos, all my clips from stuff I did in Atlanta at the WWA4. So a lot of my moves, a lot of me taking bumps, and a lot of me taking crazy moves, a couple promos and stuff like that. But that's going to be like my personal page. It's got my my gimmick and stuff attached to it. Eventually, that's morphing into a Dutch McClane Instagram. Facebook, I'm at Joseph Wenzel, so JOSEPH. WENZEL. And I'm promoting shows there too, making a Facebook page specifically for Dutch McClane. It's only a matter of time. So find me at Joseph and Joe Wenzel, and you can kind of see how the story unfolds from there. So
Absolutely. Dutch, it was a pleasure having you on the show, man. I can't wait to see what your future does for you. I'm really looking forward to you
thanks for having
doing
me,
big
man.
things. Absolutely. Guys, again, my name was Matt Kozakowski. I was your host of a pro wrestling podcast. This is the director himself, Dutch McClane. Lights, camera, action, cut. We're out.